What's up, everybody? We live. It's Wednesday night. It's happening. It's happy hour. Well, I do the thing where my phone volume isn't off, and then I need to like refresh my screen because now.
I gotta say, Dan, that was a good radio voice for your intro there.
Speaking of intros, hey everybody, it's Wednesday night. Welcome to Home Service Happy Hour, brought to you by Best Damn Bookkeeping. And it's only brought to you by Best Damn Bookkeeping because it's my show and I own Best Damn Bookkeeping, and therefore it's like brought because I'm bringing it, so it's brought to you by. I do have I was talking about this on the radio show earlier. I actually have a meeting tomorrow with a potential sponsor, and surprisingly, it's not even a beer company. It's like a real company. But I'm a stickler of sponsors. I've already like turned 2 people down that just wanted to like give me money to promote their stuff, and I was just like, nah, gross. But this is ones that I've used before, and so I can vouch for it, and I just can't really have a sponsor that I can't vouch for. So that's just me.
Gotta keep the integrity up.
Unless, yes, but if it was a beer company, like bring it on. I'll take any of y'all. Anybody that's listening here. Yeah, I mean, that's what I usually drink, right? That's my shtick. I drink crappy beer. So, yeah, I mean, like, if it's too crappy, maybe I'll be like, nah, I just don't even want to drink that on the show because I can't give an honest, like, this is good. But any other crappy beer, you can give me some Busch Light, you can give some Natty Light, you can give me some Bud Light, you can give me some Miller Light, you can give me some Coors Light. Whatever cheap light beer you got, I will drink it, and I will tell people that it's good because I think it all tastes just fine. I'll drink it all. No problems. Right now, I'm having an all day IPA is what I'm having.
Oh, that's what I got. So far from light.
I mean, it's an all day though. It's a session IPA, so it's like a 4.7 or something. Like it's a very light IPA, but it's got some IPA flavors to it. It's refreshing. Check out. I got the fancy podcast fridge here. My wife got me this as a Christmas present. It's the best Christmas present I ever got. Holds like
how many does it hold?
I think I could slide a 6-pack in here. Right now, okay, I just have 4 in there. I have 4 in there, but one's already missing.
You haven't maxed it out yet. I'm kind of surprised.
You know, I don't like keep beer in it because it's really just for like when I do the show. So it's unplugged up until like an hour before the show, and I go, oh shit, I need to get some beer in my fridge. so then I'll check this out. Darlene, look at this. I'm drinking a Busch Light right now. In an old school Blue Skies koozie. I don't know, Darlene. I heard those koozies were broken. I don't know. I got these new ones that work really good. These Best Damn ones. These ones work phenomenally. I don't know if the old Blue Skies ones work or not, but
you gotta play it around. When I was unpacking, Dan, I found some Best Damn bookkeeping things in my office here, but I don't remember where I put them exactly. So I was going to give you a shout out, but I'm not seeing them on my desk at the moment.
You probably did the thing that I'm like, I won't say I'm famous for it. Just in my household, I'm famous for it, which is I'm really good at being like, oh, I'll put this here so I don't forget it. And then I hide stuff on myself like I'm the damn Easter bunny. I did it. What's up, Gino? Gino checking in.
What's up, Gino?
Darlene says, I got one of those. I'm just holding it for a special day, which is probably going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a special day. I'll tell you how special tomorrow is going to be. I'm in Minnesota. Oh, thanks, Gino, for the shout out. Gino always shouts out my guest and is never like, what's up, Dan? Good to see you too. Gino just always blows right past me. He's just like, hey, person Dan's talking to. Ron's in the house. What's up, Ron? Good to hear from you, man. I forget. Oh, my rain gear recently. So 2 things where I hid them on myself really well. I had my rain gear with all my turkey hunting stuff, and I'm packing up for a Boundary Waters ice fishing trip. And I was like, oh no, I need to like get all my stuff situated. And I mean, I looked around in every nook and cranny that my rain gear could possibly be in, and it was hidden very nicely with all my turkey gear. And then even a farther throwback from that is I lost an electric fillet knife during ice fishing season. Like I assumed I just left it at the cleaning station in the bar and it's gone forever. And so much so that my boy Seth Goldberg, he even bought me a replacement because the last ice fishing trip he was on, we went and bought like a corded one, which was a huge pain in the butt. Mine was a battery powered one. We like bought a corded one at a gas station because that's what you do in northern Minnesota is you buy shitty corded electric fillet knives.
Where else would you buy one?
I mean, anywhere but except for a gas station. I don't know. It was Green Bay Packer colored, so that probably says something about the type of knife quality that it was. And then Seth like ordered me a really nice one, and as I was going through and situating all my fishing gear, I found exactly the place that I hid that electric fillet knife. I hid it so good on myself that I thought it was gone through 2 previous fishing trips. Like, I'm the damn Easter Bunny, John.
That's a special skill.
Yeah. Which I'm sure as you're going through your move right now, you're gonna do some of those. You're gonna have some like 4 to 6 month, just that thing must be lost. And then you find it later and you're like, sweet. And then you also are like, but I've already bought 2 of these since thinking that this was gone,
Yeah.
But anyway.
And it goes on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then you justify, and this is why moving sucks, is because now you end up throwing some of these things away. A lot of times you end up justifying like, well, I probably could use a backup. Like,
right. And then you hold on to it and then you move it later down the road again.
And now you do
the exact same thing.
Yep. And now you've got so much more room with the shed barn thing you got going on that it's really easy to justify keeping a second of stuff. You got all that room. Anyway, John, great to have you on the show. Great to have you on the show. I'm pumped.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's been we're overdue. I feel like
we were talking about this at Sales Boost, and I'm like, why haven't I been on your show yet, Dan? I kind of feel like I'm missing out here.
Yeah, I feel like I'm missing out. I'm the misser outer.
So hold on, Dan. Before we go on, I was actually, we were over at a friend's house earlier for dinner, and I was telling him I'm going to be on your show and a little bit about you.
What'd you have?
We had burgers and dogs, but we did like some good toppings on them. We did some jalapenos on the burgers, and some. My friend's wife makes this jalapeno dip, which is really, really good. It's like there's cheese and there's cream cheese, and we put jalapenos and some. We missed the bacon this time. They were out of bacon, but usually there's bacon on. But anyway,
yeah.
We were chatting a little bit, and I told him you're from Minnesota, and we're big hockey guys. And he asked, he's like,
state of hockey.
And I said, well, I don't think he plays hockey. And he's like, well, is he at least a fan of hockey? Like, I said, I don't know. All he ever talks about is like killing stuff and drinking beer. So I've never actually had a conversation with him about hockey. So I'm curious. Do you have any background on hockey?
My background on hockey is that I'm pretty sure if I would have played, I'd still be in the NHL. I'd be 38 going on 39, and I'd still be playing defense. I think I'd be defense. I'm just.
Would you like have one of those Iron Man streaks where you've played like 1,000 games?
Probably. Okay. Maybe not, because football and basketball, like I missed a lot of time with bum ankles. Maybe the hockey skates would hold up my ankles well enough that I wouldn't be, going to physical therapy all the time. But I'm 5'11", 200 pounds. I'm just a stocky kind of like, I think I'm fast. I'm quick. I'm not running a 4.4 40-yard dash, but I'm like really fast in the first 10 yards. Which bodes well for being on skates. Like I can get her going pretty quick. Can't stop super well. I'm more like Mighty Ducks. Can't stop super well. But I feel like they would have been able to coach me up on that. And I just I have a really low center of gravity, which in a sport like that where there's a lot of contact and it's a balance thing, I think I would have been a son of a bitch at hockey. But and I don't blame my parents for this at all. They got me into basketball because like a new pair of sneakers is $100. But all the hockey gear and the ice time and all the things that go along with being a kid in hockey, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. It's like cool, but it's if your kid is in hockey, that is just what you do, especially if you're in Minnesota. Like there ain't a whole lot else going on. Yeah. I grew up in central Wisconsin, but it's the same way. And so I just wasn't really like introduced to hockey. I had some rollerblades back in the middle school days, and I played in the driveway. Like I had the stick, I had the ball. I was built to play hockey, John. I just didn't. Didn't. I rink ratted a little bit when I was in college, and that was fun.
Okay,
rink ratted a little bit. I got some wrist shot action going on. I can throw that puck around and get her where I want her. Slap shots, I just don't understand the leverage of. Again, a thing I think I could have learned, but if I do a slap shot, it's like watching a dude that doesn't know how to golf top the ball over and over again. That's what my slap shot looks like, which I don't think is what they're supposed to look like. That's just
and the slap shot has evolved over the years with the sticks and the equipment and stuff. So it's actually totally different now than even when I was playing as a younger kid. So.
That's probably what it was. It's just bad gear. It wasn't me.
Yeah, that's right. We'll blame it on the gear.
It's just bad gear.
Just like hunting and fishing, right? It's
it's definitely the gear's fault. Yeah, when it doesn't work out. So obviously you played some hockey growing up. How long did you keep playing for? I feel like hockey has a long runway.
It does. I just played in a tournament this weekend, actually.
Hell yeah.
So still playing.
Hell yeah. Are your kids in a bunch of sports that you get? It's hard to do like an adult sport when you have kids in a bunch of sports.
So they just mostly play for their schools, so it's not that bad. It's just kind of after school. There's no there's maybe the occasional weekend game, but nothing crazy. They're not in any clubs or anything, so they enjoy the sports, but it's not. They don't it doesn't consume our life, which I'm honestly really thankful for, because they don't play hockey then. They don't play hockey, no, thankfully. We build that rink in our yard every year, and that's enough skating for them. They're happy with that, and that's fun. So
yeah. I do. So my kids do like the Ninja Warrior stuff, like the American Ninja Warrior stuff.
Oh yeah.
My two girls are really into that. Crosby's just about to turn 2, so the only thing he does is go to kids sports. Like we're at soccer, and I spend the entire time chasing his ass around because he's like over here, over there, going out on the field.
Game of tag with him.
Oh God, yeah. And it's like he does the thing where he looks at you and then runs the other way, which I don't blame him. That'd be what I would be doing when I was 2. But now it's just
good.
Oh, I'm sure. There's video evidence of that, I'm sure. But yeah, I just now we got the soccer and we got the softball and then we got the ninja. It's like I want to get back into like basketball, because that's what 5'11" white dudes should really be. That's our strong suit is basketball. But it's just like an excuse to get some really good exercise. And I like running around and, dunking it and stuff. Like power layups. Not quite a dunk. It's more like a power layup.
Power layup. Is that really a thing, or did you just make that up?
No, that's just that's for guys that can't dunk but want to lay it in aggressively. That's me. Okay. We had when I was in high school, like one guy on our team could dunk. But we could all get up there, and we would, after practice, we would dunk our practice jerseys. Like pretty much everybody could get up to the rim, but none of us could palm a ball to get it over the hoop. Like you can't just get up and touch the rim and be able to dunk. Like you got to get your whole hand over it and be able to hold the ball. So most of us would be able to get to here on the rim, but you could hold on to your jersey and dunk that. So we'd have a line at the end of practice, and we'd all be dunking our practice jerseys. It had to be the most. I wish social media was a thing, just so somebody could have caught it on camera to make fun of us all of how pathetic it was. Like, oh, look at all these 6'0" dudes that clearly don't have that good a vertical leap dunking.
What'd your coach have to say about that?
I mean, he was just glad we were having fun, right?
Oh,
it's just oh, this is adorable. I'm sure that would have been some of the verbiage he would have used. But yeah, I do wonder what would happen if I'd have played hockey. All we can assume is that I would have gone pro. That's all. That's the safe assumption.
You'd still be playing. You wouldn't be bookkeeping. You wouldn't be on this podcast.
I'd just be
You'd totally be in some beer commercials for in your hockey gear.
Yeah, I'd be probably pushing some Mark Messier streaks. I'd have less hair. I'd probably be playing ball.
Well, Messier's bald now, so that tracks.
Yep. I don't know. There's probably some other dudes that played forever that I'd be up there with, just setting records. That's the safe assumption, but we'll never know. I do wish I would have played hockey.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
I do wish I would have played hockey though. Again, I don't hold it against my folks, but I kind of do. Lazy parents, they're doing. JC's checking in, says, "What's up, gents?" Jeremy Jennings, what's happening, buddy? Says, "Great to see you, Jen." Ben Bergloff, what's up? Coming in from Idaho. Angela checking in. Skip said, "I could see Dan being Danny
Danico.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is.
Pretty sure he was on the Red Wings for a while.
I would have probably been Danny Kenico.
Danny Kenico, there
you just flip that
can
around.
be. You are Danny Kenneco.
I'm that guy. That's who I am. Does he have a mullet? I feel like I'll start growing out my mullet. Danny Kenneco would have a mullet.
Love it.
Maybe that's why Crosby's got a mullet. My 2-year-old, he's going Joe Dierte haircut, and he's 2, so he doesn't really have a say in it. It's more.
I was going to say, is it his choice or
no? He has no. He likes it. He likes to do this with it and just wave it around. But maybe it's just me trying to get my hockey. That's like a Minnesota hockey thing. They're all big into the mullets, especially like when they have the state hockey tournament here. It's just a big mullet contest. So I'm pretty sure that's.
I've actually seen that before.
Yeah, that's what Crosby's into. Skip says lifetime New Jersey Devils defenseman still holds the record for most penalty minutes. Yeah, that would have been me. Although I'm not really a fighter. I think I'd just get my ass kicked if I got in a fight.
Well,
I would just go down.
Fighting and playing chippy are 2 different things. So
okay,
you can get penalties without fighting.
Yeah, I probably would have been the instigator and then been like, well, oh, hey, whoa, hey. We thought we were just having a good time here. Anyway, John, let's talk some business.
Yes,
for those, I keep hitting my cord here, and I like almost pulled this headset off my noggin. Let's get a little background on you. Give us a little what were you doing that got you into the home service space? A little bit of the background and the ups and downs and the struggles to where you are now. And we got to get into the coaching stuff. We got to get into the shark fishing stuff, like the really important stuff.
Right.
But let's do a little time travel. Let's go back in time. Give us what young John was up to.
Young John, yeah. When? So I've been in the home service space for 12 years now, and before that, had a job as a project manager for a construction company. So we did a lot of bigger.
I can see you being a project manager for a construction company. I bet you were a damn good project manager.
You're right. In my 20s, I was running $30 million worth of construction projects, and
if you would have stuck with it, you probably would have been like the best to ever play the game.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Just like me playing.
So yeah, I was in my 20s and I loved it. Like I loved all aspects of construction and building. And it was so cool to be part of it from literally like the beginnings. It was just a stack of specifications, like those, 4-inch ring binders. There was like 4 sets of those that I have to comb through, and then all these blueprints and stuff. And I would literally build the schedule out from breaking ground to final completion when the people moved into the building. And it was cool. It was a lot of fun. And
I don't want to sidetrack this too much, but I got to defend myself here. Ryan Edring says, Dan, Vox me back, you a-hole. Public service announcement, Voxer logged me out, and I can't get logged back in because it's tied to like 3 email servers ago before Blue Skies emails even existed. It's like Blue Crew Windows something or other. There's no way to password recover it. And so I emailed them. They said they enabled the password recovery, and they didn't. They did email me back today, but I haven't got to look at it. So Ryan, I'm not ignoring you. I'm ignoring everybody. So there.
To be fair to Ryan's point, I did just get a notification the other day that you're on Voxer again.
Yeah.
And it was recently.
Yeah, so, I tried to like log in through Facebook, but then it created like a new thing for me, and I was like, no, I don't want a new thing. I want my old thing, so I need to get a password recovery going. Anyway, sorry, you're the best project manager in the world.
Yeah,
continue. You were the best project manager in the world. Continue.
Yeah, so really enjoyed that. I learned a lot through that process because we did a lot of government projects. So it was a lot of like the paperwork side of things to do government projects. I was learning, and went through the 2008, 2009 housing crash. We did mostly commercial work, so it didn't directly affect us, but we got the indirect sort of, trickle down from it because all the construction guys that were in the residential sector were like, well, the only work's in the commercial space, we're going there.
Yep.
And literally just the bottom fell out. All the margins and everything I was not only responsible for managing like the project itself and the schedule, but I was also responsible for the budget.
Right. Yeah.
And the I didn't actually bid it and estimate it, but I was responsible from turnover from when the estimators took it to maintain that profit margin or do better. And we subcontracted like 85% of our work. So, towards the end of my career there, I said, like, it's akin to being responsible for everything, but having control over nothing.
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating. And my breaking point was when we did a lot of school construction. So, hard deadline, work's got to be done so the kids can get back in school. And it was at the end of summer, and we were wrapping up this project. We had an elevator in this one project, and the elevator subcontractor had to get the inspector out there so we can get the certificate of operation for the elevator to be able to open school. And everything was fine. I left early on a Friday and went to the beach with my wife and my young kids, right? They were like, I don't even remember at this point. They might have been like 2 and 4, something like that. And I got a phone call at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we're just pulling into the Jersey Shore from my on-site superintendent saying, the elevator guy never showed up. We've got no inspector here. And it's a Friday afternoon. School's supposed to open on Monday. And I'm like, I had no idea what to do. So I'm on the phone with the elevator.
You get some caution tape. You say, nobody can ride this elevator.
Well, the problem was that they weren't having school. And so I was just losing my mind. And again, it fell back to like, I'm responsible for all this, but I have control over basically nothing. Right. So that was literally my breaking point, because I can still picture it to this day, being on the phone. We pulled up to the hotel we were staying at. My wife is trying to unload our 2 young kids and all the luggage into the hotel room while I'm on the phone arguing with this elevator company and like back and forth. And just, I can remember the look on her face of like, I can't do this. I need your help. And I felt like such a sleazeball, like terrible husband, terrible father at that point. I'm like, this is, why
it's like a lose-lose. Like somebody's
really
losing or we're all losing. And no matter what, everybody's going to be mad at Jon. There's Jon just cannot win no matter what.
And it was honestly, it was such a defining like weekend there, because we actually were going because my wife was going to run her very first half marathon that I think it was Sunday morning. And she'd been training for it. We were all excited. And the night before the run, there was the craziest thunderstorm that like I'd ever been a part of, experienced. It literally just like parked itself over Wildwood, New Jersey, and like the loudest thunder and the craziest lightning for like 6 hours straight all night, and just dumped rain. And like her and I were up all night. One of our kids was up all night, and she was supposed to run 13 miles the very next morning. I'm like, this is not going well. So through that, because of the experience I had earlier, I started brainstorming, like, I got to find something else to do. Like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. This is just so stressful. And so through that, I'm like coming up with these crazy ideas. I mean, like, have you ever had that, like a moment, like, and I'm, asking the people that are listening too, like, have you ever had that moment where like, you just feel like you're in this flow state and these crazy ideas come through like one after the other. And you're like,
just a different part of your brain is just going. Yes. You're like, let me fucking in here. We're doing this thing. I'm coming.
Yes. And I was in that moment where it was just like one after the other things were just like popping in my head. And I'm like, oh, so I'm like writing stuff down. And that was sort of the, I guess, the apex, if you will, of when this whole thing kind of started, right? This idea of getting into the home service space started. It actually started, and I was searching for stuff, and it was this, do you remember that crappy, I forget what product it was. It's a Sherwin-Williams or a Behr product. It was that like liquid composite deck stuff you'd roll out over your old wood deck. And it was a complete failure of a product. It like,
it was worse
in litigation and lawsuit.
Yeah, it peeled off. It peeled off faster than like my skin after a hard sunburn.
Yeah, exactly. So it was awful, but that was like what started this. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, this is cutting edge technology, right? It's pretty neat. But as part of that, it was like, oh, okay, well, you got to pressure wash to clean it first before you put this down. So then that's what got me sort of down the pressure washing world. And And the rest was, you know, kind of stuck with that, stayed in that vein. And then
was there any discussion with your wife about like, hey, I know I'm like leaving something that has maybe some like job security to it, but I think like we can look each other in the eyes and be like, this creates some problems. And I'm about to go create a whole new set of problems. Like, are you ready for this new set of problems? Was she like on board, or was she like, sounds like that could be even crazier than this is? Like, what was her mindset?
Yeah, she was on board, and it was more of a slow, like there was definitely like a longer time span from when we had this sort of moment at the beach to when we finally said like, let's do this. And I want to say it was probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, somewhere in that range, where that ended up happening. And
just needed the catalyst to get the wheels turning.
Yeah, exactly. So started finding some. So I get the next sort of part of the story was a guy that I worked with at the construction company had an old pressure washer in his shed, and he couldn't get it working. So he's like, "Here, you like to like kind of fix stuff. You can take this, and if you can get it working, you can keep it."
Garbage.
Yeah, just take it off my hands. I'm like, okay, cool. So the side of my house needed pressure wash because it was all green. So I took it, YouTube, figured out the unloader was stuck, sprayed some WD-40 on it, got it going. I'm like, boom, I got it. Awesome. So I pressure washed the side of the house, and it looked good. And I was like, well, this is actually pretty enjoyable. Like, this is cool. And then I started doing the deck out back, and halfway through it, like just started smoking and blowing oil, and like it was total trash at that point. So I'm like, crap, I got half my deck done now. I got to like finish this. So I jumped inside, jumped on Craigslist, and I'm like looking for replacement one cheap so I can at least finish the project, because we were broke. We had no money at that point. And as I'm scrolling through, I see box truck with commercial pressure washing equipment will train you to start your own pressure washing business. And like that was kind of the light bulb, like, wait a second, this is actually a thing.
Yeah.
And no idea that do this. No idea that it was actually like a legit thing. Not, you know, other than just a side hustle.
And was that a guy like getting out first? Jen Chambers. What's up, Jen? Jen's in the house. Jeremy's in the house. Ryan's just drunk, so that's why he's giving me a hard time. He already knew that I didn't have Voxer up and running. He just said he's a couple of Mexican drinks in and feeling groggy. I buy that. I wish I was a couple of Mexican drinks in. So was that a guy like just getting out of the business and had some stuff, or was like that his kind of shtick was he would like get it all set up for you and then like sell you it to get you going?
Right. So I was a little leery of the whole thing at first too. So I went and met with him, and turns out he was in my area, and he was actually going to be relocating to about like 2 hours southwest of us. And he just wanted to get rid of this and build a new rig, basically. So he was just looking to liquidate the whole thing.
Sounds like a guy with a boat that could easily take the boat with him, but is like, this seems like a good excuse to get me a new boat.
Exactly.
Like that type of deal.
Exactly. Yeah. So I met with him, talked to him for like an hour and a half, and he kind of showed me the ropes super quick, and even offered to subcontract me for like my first like 2 jobs, which were some like concrete cleaning at a couple bank drive-throughs an hour and 45 minutes away from me. Like, sure, what could go wrong, right? First job ever, like,
yeah,
let's do it. But you know, so we looked at that. I talked to my wife about it. We put together like this business plan, which I look back on and it was an absolute joke, but
that is hilarious. Yeah. They put that, you need that framed.
Yeah. If I could find it still, that would be awesome. But
it's in one of those things you just moved. I'm sure you moved it because you wouldn't have been able to throw that out. Probably moved it.
I think it was digital. So I got to find it somehow digitally, but
out there. It's out there on a hard drive somewhere.
Yeah, we got it. We ended up getting an SBA loan from a local bank for about $36,000, I think, for like our startup. It was somewhere around there, 30 to 35,000, somewhere in that range. And we bought the truck. We got a website going, bought some other equipment. And part of it, we thought, well, we're in Pennsylvania. It gets cold in the wintertime. What are we going to do? We can't pressure wash in the winter. We'll go inside and we'll clean people's carpets. That's a great idea.
There you go. There you go.
Sounded good in the business plan, right?
On paper. Rainwater, we're just sucking water. It can't be much different.
Exactly. It's warm inside. Why not? So I went ahead and got, the shiny object syndrome with carpet cleaning equipment, and found this Cadillac version of something that I ended up buying. I had no idea what I was getting. And, ended up with I don't know, 10,000 of the 36 that we got went to this carpet cleaning. I think it was more than that. It might've been 12 or 15. It might've been almost half of it went to this carpet cleaning rig. I ended up going out and cleaning 3 carpets for people like that we knew. Yeah. And I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah. For as much as I don't like pressure washing, I really hate carpet cleaning.
Really hate carpet cleaning. And I've invested the most amount of money into this thing. So this sucks. And so
at least you found out early. That's a good lesson to learn right away.
But it is a hard lesson to learn when you are in startup mode and have like no cash, and to be able to have to lose half. So a quarter of your initial investment, you essentially lost and took a bath on when you're a month and a half, 2 months into business. Like, that's a kick in the nuts that I didn't want to take, but I'm still thankful for it because it's part of my story.
So I'm gonna like fast forward us, and then we're gonna come back here. So put a bookmark in this of the carpet cleaning debacle, because I want to get into this is a thing when I do coaching that I struggle with, and I'm curious, when you do coaching, like, you must see people about to do this where they're like, here's my plan. I've got this going. I'm going to go, I'm maybe doing 100 or 200,000. I'm going to go do this and this and this too right away. And shiny object and shiny object and shiny object. And I don't want to like put thoughts in your head, but I struggle a little bit with like, I don't want to like pop their bubble, right? Like, you're dreaming big and you want to go do stuff, and that's what makes you an entrepreneur. And right, like that hustle and like, I'm going to just go fucking take over the world is like part of what makes you awesome. And part of the things when I look back at what I've done, like, oh shit, I'm never doing that again. And so when you're coaching people now, having had that experience of like, oh damn, I tried to do 2 things at once, and I should have just stuck with the one thing that like I really knew well and not spent a bunch of money on the shiny object. How do you navigate that when you're coaching people now? Do you pop the bubble, or do you say, hey, that's pretty cool, let me tell you about an experience I had? How do you navigate that one?
Yeah. So it's kind of like the hot stove with a kid, right? Like, you can see it.
Oh yeah.
And it's not going to end well. So I do a little bit of what you just said, a little storytelling, especially if it's something that I've been through and I've experienced. I like to, we know the speak from experience, sort of perspective tends to work the best, right? So anytime I can go down that road, I do 100%, because people can relate and they say like, oh, okay. Like the one husband and wife that I'm working with right now, they always tell me like, we really appreciate this, because like you've been where we're at, and you've been through this, and you're helping us not make the mistakes that you've made. Right. So I think it goes both ways. Right. So if you're being coached or working with a mentor or something like that, the term coach has kind of gotten a bad rap, but if you're working with somebody who is ahead of you, and hopefully they are, right? You're not working with somebody who's at the same level as you. Like, you want to be working
giving you their opinions.
Yeah. You don't want opinions, you want experience. So somebody who's at least, 2 chapters ahead of you, and they can speak to the pain that they went through, because it's the whole point of working with somebody, a mentor, to help you avoid those things, to help you from touching the hot stove and stepping in the quicksand, right? So it is a little bit of, don't do that because it's going to hurt. But then a lot of times I try to just break it down to like the logical side of it. And okay, you did $500,000 this year. You want to do $4 million next year. Okay. And Dan, I know you do this a lot. Like, well, let's talk about that. What's it going to cost? How many employees do you need? How many people do you need to hire? How much equipment do you need to invest in? How much cash do you have? Oh, you've got $10,000 in cash. Going to be pretty hard to do that. Right. And then you kind of bring them down to earth. And like, it's always like, dude, we don't want to squash the ambition, but we got to have some sort of level ground, because if you're shooting for that 4 million and you end up at, 1.3 after doing 500,000, like that's pretty good. And you're in a good cash position. You're not bleeding profit. Like you made money that year. Like that's solid. That's what we want to focus on. Who cares? And my big focus lately is get rid of this stupid theory of the vanity of revenue. Like profit is all that matters in business as far as building and growing a business goes. Like this, I think the whole like private equity stir like got so many people into this, like, oh, I got to hit this certain revenue amount. But really, what does private equity look like? The bottom line.
Yep.
I mean, there's a combination. There's more to it, obviously, but the biggest thing is
if your bottom line is good, your revenue will be good too. But if your revenue is good, it doesn't mean your bottom line is good.
That's right. It's
like
not,
it's
not
the
mutually exclusive.
A square is a rectangle, but a rectangle ain't a square. It's that type of logic.
Yes.
Speaking of ambitious people, Ryan Edrington, he's the biggest idea guy I know. He said spell check got him. He's feeling froggy, not groggy. Now he's 3 drinks in and he's just cool. He says, Rob Anderson, what's up, homie? Scotty's in the house. Scotty's probably drinking moonshine. He's probably got moonshine instead of beer. Darlene says, find your niche and own it. Ryan said, that's why I fuck with Elon Musk. He's just trying to, play with somebody at a higher level.
Yeah.
Jeremy says, boom. That's a lot of O's. I didn't know how to carry them all out, but let's get back. So you shiny object chase, a bunch of carpet cleaning stuff. Did you just sell it, or what'd you end up doing with it?
Yeah, I ended up selling it. Some guy in, I forget where he was. I think he was in Minnesota, actually.
What a loser.
He ended up buying it from me, which I was super thankful for, because I thought I was screwed. But anyway,
dead weight.
Yeah. So fast forward, I kind of found my niche, and I just posted on my Facebook page, I think it was last week. I had a memory come up. It was a picture of, it was like the second pressure washing job I'd ever done. And I was just thinking back, like, man, I was so thankful for that time. Like that was such like guerrilla market. Like I went to Staples or Office Max and got a ream of that like bright, like neon paper, and just printed on my printer, like pressure washing. Like, I don't even remember what it looked like. Again, I'd love to go back through the database and scrub and find those things, but
it's just going.
And I did what you weren't supposed to do, and like put them on the people's mailboxes, like in the little.
Did they call you and threaten to put you in jail?
Well, no. The one dude called me, and I remember I was actually on a job site for the construction company in one of the job trailers after a project meeting, and my phone rang, and I'm like, I don't know who this is. And I answered it, and he's like, yeah, I got your flyer. I'm interested in actually having my house pressure washed and my roof cleaned. And I was like, well, really? Yeah. Really? Are you serious? You're not?
Yeah.
And like, I didn't know what to say, right? Because it was the first like legitimate phone call I'd ever gotten. So I'm like stumbling through it. I'm like, oh gosh, this guy's not going to hire me. Like, I sound like an idiot, right? Like, it was terrifying, but it was also super exciting at the same time. Like, all these emotions are going through. So it was funny just, thinking back to that. Like, anybody who's got a business, right? If you can remember that first like legitimate job and phone call you got, like that's outside of friends and family, like that was one of the coolest memories that I think I have of business. Because of all those emotions, right? It was terrifying, but it was also super exciting. Like, it was embarrassing, but like, hell yeah, we did this. Like, this is actually working. Like, somebody who I don't know actually called me and wants me to do some work for him. Like, this is awesome. This might work.
Holy shit, I fooled him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
And then after that job was done, the neighbor across the street was like, yeah, I got some stuff. Could you, come on over and do mine too. I was like, hell yeah, let's do this, man.
Double up.
Yep. So like that was kind of the epiphany of like, hey, this might work. And at the time, this was like, I was doing them both, right? This was like, the pressure washing was like my weekend side hustle, right?
Yep.
And I never had a, I mean, realistically, I wanted this to work, but deep down, it was like, I don't know. Cause I had that safety net of this like, secure job that I've been
Yeah.
at for 10 years, almost 10 years at that point. So, um, it just sort of like, it just organically grew from that point, which is crazy to think. Like,
How long did you do them kind of side by side? Like, what was the point where you're like, you know what, I can fucking do this thing?
it was just under a year. I want to say it was about 10 months.
Yeah.
So, and I can still remember the day you had asked earlier about like what my wife thought if she was on board. And she was on board the whole time. But I remember as it was like growing and I was getting more calls, like I was doing more jobs and like I was gone better part of the weekend because I wasn't seeing my kids. I'm like, oh, this kind of sucks. Like we got to do something here.
Yep.
And it finally got to the point where I asked the construction company, like, this is actually working. So can I reduce my schedule down to 3 days a week? And so I had like a long weekend. I worked basically like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the construction company.
This
And then
sounds
the
like an
rest,
Office Space type of thing. Like, yeah, I'm gonna need a couple more days off.
right, right. So, but they agreed to it. And then at that point, they started like transitioning me out. And we had my daughters, both my daughters, their birthdays are pretty close. They're 2 years apart, but their birthdays are 10 days apart. And we had like a joint birthday party at Chick-fil-A the one day for them. And before I left the office at the construction company, the guy that gave me the pressure washer to start the whole thing came in my office and he's like, so next Friday, your last day here, I guess. And I was like, I was not ready for that soon.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I guess so. Like, if you guys are ready to move on, let's do it. And I walked into the birthday party. My wife's there. She turns around and I said, AJ said next Friday is my last day. So we're doing this full time. She looked at me and she's like, let's go. We're
Let's
doing
do it.
this.
Let's do it.
And like to have that support and not like the panic, like, oh man,
Yeah.
that was huge. That was huge. So that was the big turning point for me and for us through our journey of like we kind of got kicked and like forced into it. But
Yeah.
had we not been, who knows where I'd be.
Well, and like you had enough runway to know that you could do it. And at that point,
Yes.
you have enough confidence where like when the change is instigated, you're not like, uh-oh. You're like, yeah, let's do it next Friday.
That's
Hell
right. Yeah.
So good on you to get it going. I want to come back to Ryan's question here, the paying taxes through the business. Put a pin in that one, Ryan. Putting a pin in it. I'm at actually. I think I can do a star. I starred it. I don't know what that means on StreamYard, but I put a star next to it, Ryan. Justin Noggle checking in, probably from his cold plunge right now. He's probably cold plunging right now. And then he's planting some saffron.
Oh, Justin and I had this conversation. Apparently, saffron grows really well in Pennsylvania.
And really? Is it by far the most expensive like spice?
Yes, he said 1 acre can yield $100,000 worth of crop, and I'm like, that's a heck of a lot better than corn.
Yeah, you think everybody be planting that? There must be something to it. Like it must take a long time or take some expertise.
You got to do some research on it.
Now that you got this land of yours, you sounds like you'd be a saffron farmer. Jeremy Jennings was nodding his head to your story about the first job. He said, rolling up to the first quote, new construction cleanup, wearing my brand new safety orange shirt, still shiny contractor clipboard. I'm sure they totally knew it wasn't my first.
Some things are just obvious.
Little's pressure washing says, howdy failers. At least that's how I interpret how he typed that. Casey says, who's Dan Plata? I don't know.
Never heard of him.
Who's John Galt, if you're into that sort of thing. Dave Jensen checking in, says, what's going on, guys? Good to see you both. Good to see you, Dave.
You too,
Dave. Dave's got like 8 kids. I'm surprised he even has time to watch a live feed. He's probably got like feeding 2 kids and throwing a ball with another one, or at least instructing the one to throw the ball with the other one. I don't know. I don't know what you do when you have that many kids. I can hardly keep track of 3 of them. So you get the business going. was the original intent, was their original intent? Was it like, we're going to take this thing to the moon? Or was it, we're just going to try to figure out how to like clean more stuff? And like, did you have an original vision of what you thought it would be? Or was it just like I'm just going to like figure some shit out and we'll put one foot in front of the other for a while and see what happens?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the main goal at that time was just to replace the income that I had from the construction company. And I mean, that was the immediate need, right? Because I didn't have that job anymore. So it was like, well, we got to at least do that so we can survive. And because I don't remember at the time if my wife was working or not, but I think she was still. But yeah, I mean, we didn't have these grand visions of creating this, superpower entity empire. It was just survive.
Well, and I mean, like at that point, a decade ago, there wasn't a lot of people doing $1 million home service businesses, at least not in like the cleaning space. It wasn't
right.
The roadmap wasn't there. So it's hard to have a vision of like, I'm going to go do this thing when you don't have other people to look at to be like, it's doable, right?
It
like
was kind of the 4-minute mile, maybe, I guess you can say. Like, not,
yeah.
I mean, it's been done, but like, it wasn't really, it's like some dude in Africa that can run the 4-minute mile, but nobody knows about it. Right. So like, because it's not broadcast. So I feel like that's kind of maybe what it was like, where there's people out there doing it, but it was still like social media was still kind of new. So like there were I guess the forums and stuff, but in the message boards. But I guess back in the day, then like if you came in, and it was still early in my career, I wasn't figuring all that stuff out. But from what I remember hearing stories of, I remember hearing Josh Latimer say like he'd go in and like tell people like, hey, I figured this thing out and this worked well and got me some business. Everybody like bashed him and they're like, that won't work. You're an idiot. Like, and then they just went on and talking about pressure, PSI and squeegees and downstreaming and all this technical stuff. And that's basically what that was.
Yeah. I feel like that time, because we bought Blue Skies window washing in 2011. So super similar timeline to like when you started going. And I remember talking to Dulkey and we were like, there's these CRM things. And you can like put your customers into them. And it was just like, they were just like Jobber was just coming out. And there was a couple around. But I remember we were like on Jobber before it's the Jobber that we know of today. Like just some of the hilarious things going on in these CRMs. But when you started, did you start with a CRM or did you start with like paper with carbon copy type of things?
We didn't even have paper. I made like some really bad Excel version of an invoice, and I would like type in like all the details and like had some fake invoice number on it. Like I had nothing. I think we used QuickBooks Online to like track stuff after, I don't even remember, at some point, but I do remember at the very beginning, those first 2 jobs, I made those generic like Excel version of these invoices.
Oh yeah, there was an invoice template. I remember when you'd like open
That's probably what I used then. Yeah,
there was like a generic template you could start with. So
yeah,
the technology was there, baby. It was there.
Yeah, I don't think we ended up implementing a CRM probably until like year 3 or 4, and we just ran everything out of QuickBooks, and it worked for us. Then once we got a CRM, we were like, holy cow. This is awesome.
What have we been doing?
Yeah.
Wait, and you're on Customer Factor today, right? So did you start on Customer Factor?
We did, yeah. It's the OG for us. We tried a couple different ones, and it's just changing CRMs is one of the most painful, most frustrating things.
It is the most. It's not one of. It is the most.
Yes, and we've tried it twice, and just it's one of those things like. Yes, it's got its nuances, but they all do, we found.
They all do. And it sucks having to figure out a new system or process for the new nuances.
Exactly. And it doesn't seem worth it. So
yeah,
we've got it figured out. We've got it coupled with a few other softwares that like kind of make up for the shortcomings of Customer Factor in a sense. So it's annoying because we have like 4 different softwares doing what in theory one should do, but
yeah, but I mean, like at least with Customer Factor, you have money left to afford those other softwares. Like
That's
some
true.
of them, you're getting that same thing, but you're paying 400, 500, $1,000 a month, and you're still having to get supplemental things to add on anyway. So it's like,
yeah,
it's I don't think you're at Rob Anderson levels as far as trying new CRMs and bailing on them. I think Rob is still on
he's like
customer.
once a month. He's trying new things, right?
Yep, I think he's tried them all at least twice. To a hilarious degree. I remember when we were at Blue Skies, we must have started 3 different new QuickBooks accounts for him to transfer his data through. Which in hindsight, like Blue Skies is probably still paying for some extra QuickBooks. Janelle, if you're watching, check out any accounts you have for Rob, because I'm sure I forgot to cancel them, because every other week it was like we're starting a brand new, like just a dummy QuickBooks to try to transfer his data out of there to a new CRM that he wouldn't end up using. But it's the only thing it's maybe half as bad is switching payrolls. Switching payrolls sucks, especially as you get more employees, because of all the nonsense and those state taxes and the unemployment stuff and the employee setups and the this and that. But
we're in the midst of that right now, Dan. So
yeah. Well, sorry to put salt in there on you, but
yeah.
It's
you're gonna give me salt. At least give me a margarita.
I could have done that. Ryan Edrington's drinking all of them.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, Ryan's got them all. Have another one for me, buddy.
Yeah. So at what point did you realize, like, holy shit, this is a real business? This isn't just like me going around doing some work, making some money, like thinking more like a CEO versus an operator type of thing. Like, hey, we can really build something here. Take us through some of the sticking points and like the epiphanies that you've had. Cause now you're pushing not to go on what you said we're not going to talk about, but just to give some context, I think you're pushing like 2 million in revenue, right? Correct. Like from not, again, revenue's not important, but just from like a scale of the problems that you're working on. Right. So take us through some of the stupid points of scaling a business, like the sticky spots and where you kind of realize what this business was capable of.
So I think there's 2 different things there. You'd said about like CEO side, and then like, hey, we've got something here that we could build. Like I think those are 2 different tipping points, if you will. Yep. So the first one of like, hey, I think
in the opposite order of the way I laid them out. I was just saying shit to say while I was working on my thoughts.
Yeah, but I got it. So I'll try to string it together in the right order. So when we realized we sort of had something, I think was by, I want to say year 3, we were doing like 350-ish thousand in revenue. And I was like, we're like legit busy. Like we were getting some bigger, like commercial contracts that were like pretty cool, like, $20,000 to $25,000 projects. And I'm like, this is freaking awesome. Like
we're for real. We're legit.
Yeah. And like, this is, I'm bringing in more in revenue than I made in like half a year at my other job. Like this is incredible. And, I was still in the truck mostly. So I was trying to, wearing all the hats. Mm-hmm. And then it got to a point where, had a guy that was working with me, family friend for our church, their kid was sort of in college and like was looking for some help. Or looking for a job. So like hired him on for the summers and he was helping me out. And that guy's actually still with us today. He's our operations manager. Yep. He's our operations manager. And
damn.
So he was instrumental sort of in my process of like figuring out like I can train somebody. They do a really good job at the work. And then he was still kind of part-time because he was still going to college. So I only had him for like certain times. And then I'm like, man, I need somebody like him, but that can be full-time and fill the gap. So I ended up finding a guy. And I think that was sort of the first, when I realized, again, talking back to, I can literally picture the time when I had trusted these guys to take the truck out by themselves without me for the first time. Like that was, I can still picture them driving away from my house. And it was like,
it's like
all those emotions.
It's like sending kids to kindergarten and you're like, oh man, like they're just leaving.
Yeah. And I don't know, are they going to be okay? Like, are they going to crash the truck? Are they going to like, what's going to happen?
I hope they make it back.
Yeah. But of course, everything went great. And I was actually able to go out and like do a full day of estimates, which was like crazy at the time. And I was like selling jobs and getting more work. And it was like, whoa, like this is what can happen if I just focus my time on selling stuff. I can keep these guys busy. So that was sort of the first epiphany of like, hey, we've got something here. And then it sort of transitioned into this. I'm still wearing too many hats now. And I feel like I'm becoming a bottleneck.
Yep.
Like I need more help. So I think the bottleneck is sort of the theme that I've experienced throughout the journey to where we're at today. And I think a major tipping point for me was I want to say it was 2018. It was in Michigan. Josh Latimer hosted this event in Michigan at his in Ludington, Michigan.
The old ATSX.
Yeah. And shout out to Pat Clark. I was like thinking about going, and like Pat just kind of messaged me on Facebook out of the blue and was like, dude, I really think you should go to this. And I trusted Pat. Like I looked up to him because he was successful, had a good family, like kind of, he aligned with, what I was hoping to do. And it was just, I thought it was really strange that just like out of the blue, he sent that to me. So again, I said something to my wife. I'm like, what do you think? Like, I'd really like to go to this, but like, I kind of want you to come with me because it says you're supposed to take like your partner, your spouse with you. And she's like, well, and she's a planner, right? Michelle is like, she wants to know all the specifics and the details. And if you've ever been to, a Latimer event, like they specifically keep you kind of in the dark because they want to keep you engaged and excited and like keep the intrigue. Yeah. And like, so that wasn't part of the deal. And she did not like that at all. And she legit told her friends that after she agreed to come, a couple days before the trip, she's like, we're going to Ludington, Michigan. All I have is the address of the hotel that we're staying at. If you don't hear from me in a day or two, please like call the local authorities and have somebody like come to the hotel to figure out what's going on. Because she legit thought we were going to get off the bus and like they were going to book pillowcases over our head and we were going to be gone.
You're going to be in the movie Old School. You're going to be just being a frat.
Exactly, Old Blue. So thankfully that wasn't the case, and it was absolutely incredible, and it changed our entire perspective on like what a business is and not like the owner operator mentality. And there's nothing wrong with that, but like we got to a point where we just felt frustrated because we felt stuck in that owner operator, and we could see that the business had more potential than just that, but we didn't know how to get there. So we had some really smart people that were a couple chapters ahead of us speak into our lives and our business. And we had some really good people come aside us, and, shout out to Caleb Winiger and John Wojtowicz. Those two guys were like the OGs in that group with me. We all literally just kind of like Caleb and I kind of chatted before that, but John Wojtowicz came in at the first time there. And at that point, he was talk about CRMs. He was taking the business over from his parents who've been doing it for like almost 30 years, I think. And they did not run a CRM for over 30 years.
It's doable.
They had this like a Dewey Decimal system for all their customers run like 3x5 index cards. I was like, oh my word. But they ended up coming up with I think they ended up using Customer Factor eventually and like got into it. But
I would have hated to be the person entering all those clients into Customer Factor the first time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I think they had over 20,000 customers. So
one hell of a job.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was a big turning point, I think, as far as like our belief that we kind of saw other people that have done this, Brandon Vaughn and those guys that have built, Josh had built his and exited his, sold his company. So it's like, wow, okay. It just really expanded our sort of, I guess, potential and opened us up to a whole new world of what is possible. And after that, like our growth really just exploded. We went from, we had the employees, the two technicians, and then ended up hiring within like, we got back, we started working. That's when like the Conquer coaching program was like born.
Yep.
And we started working with Brandon Vaughn directly, like as our coach. And we started in January with him, or February. And by the end of March, like second week of April it was, we hired our first office manager, our first salesperson, and we promoted Nate to our operations manager, all like within 6 weeks of working with Brandon. And it was like, let's go. Like,
put some gas on that.
That totally just poured like the drum of gasoline on what we had going. And that year we just blew up. And I really saw the potential of having good people join, like come alongside you. And all those people are still with us today. Like they're our core leadership team. Yep. And it was great. So that was like the first tipping point of like, cool, let's really lean into this and grow this thing. And then it got to a point again where it's like, all right, what's next? Because I was still the bottleneck. Like we had good people in these departments and they're doing a great job. But most people that I work with, I ask them, why do you start your business? And I get either one of two answers or both. Is I want more money or more time, right? Yep. Or both. And we were doing pretty well on the financial side, which, side note, as we were growing the business, we were in a mountain of debt, right? Dan, you know the story. And
I was going to get to that next, but we got to finish this.
All right, we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back.
We got to get to Dave next.
Yeah. So, but I realized I didn't have the time freedom. Like we were working through the financial side of things. I wouldn't say we're financially free. Like we weren't like rolling in millions and millions of dollars by any means, but we were like in a way better spot than we were a couple of years back. Mm-hmm. But I was still locked in on the time. I felt like I was still like a slave every day to the business. And if I went away, like my phone was always ringing, like I was getting questions, like the buck stopped with me still.
Yep.
So we worked on. Yeah, that's right. So
at this point, roughly, like back to the revenue thing, just for context, like roughly where are you at revenue wise and like number of employee wise?
I think we had maybe, I'd say about we had about 12 to 14 employees.
Okay. And so kind of bumping around the $1 million some mark.
Yeah, we were probably just over $1 million, like $1 million 2, somewhere in that range.
It's the worst spot. It's the worst spot.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I think I got to hire a general manager. That's what I kept telling myself, because like all the people like looking at all the org charts, it's like, okay, I'm holding that general manager position right now.
I'm still in these 8 jobs right here.
Yeah. And the general manager one is like, there's nobody else that holds anything, after that. So that's the next position I got to fill.
Oh, damn. Everybody still reports to me.
Yeah. So I honestly said that, Dan, for probably almost 2 years of like, oh, I got to hire a general manager, And finally our buddy.
It's scary, dude. It's expensive.
It is. And like, I wasn't prepared because I'm like, I don't know how to, I don't want to, I'm already busy enough. I don't want to train this person. Mm-hmm. Like that's going to be exhausting and tiring. And I don't even know how to do it, honestly.
What if it's the wrong person? Like, how do you even know? How do you know? They could just fool you and take all your fucking money and leave.
You very much could. So I really just couldn't commit to making it happen. And again, I still vividly picture it. We were in the mountains in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and at this cabin, and we're going through this little planning worksheet for the coming year. And JC called me out and he's like, dude, you've been saying this for like 18 months. When the hell are you just going to do it already? And that was the push that I needed.
That's a good friend right there.
It is. And that was the push that I needed to be like, oh, man, I got called out on this. You're right. I got to just do this. So I made a commitment that by, I think it was either March or April of the following year, and this was in September when this happened. I said, all right, by the end of Q1 or the start of Q2, we're going to have that position filled. And started working towards that. And then I realized, I don't remember exactly how it came about, but I just sort of had this epiphany through hearing some other people talk about it, or whether it was a podcast. I don't know what it was that like finally rung with me, but it was the fact that I don't know that I necessarily want a general manager, because they're just going to manage what I already have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I really want, I need to bring in somebody that's actually been where I want to go and can help us get there faster. And hey, the cool benefit about that is I don't necessarily have to train them on all the things, because they're going to come with a lot of skill sets already, and be a caliber of a person. They'll have some business knowledge. They'll know how to read a P&L and all this stuff that I don't have to train them. Like, mm-hmm. They're going to be more expensive, but ultimately I want my time back.
Yeah.
And that's an investment in my time. So I switched gears and was like, okay, maybe rather than a GM, maybe I want a C-level person. So a CEO, COO, what does that look like? So started going down that road. Ultimately decided I want to go with a COO, because I want the daily operations taken care of. I still enjoy like
big running the business, and you're the vision guy.
Yes, exactly. I mean, when you take the visionary integrator skill, I'm high on the visionary, low on the integrator. So I needed an integrator that can handle the day-to-day stuff. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we started doing in January. I think it was in January. We posted up and I'm like, we're doing this. We're going to find somebody. And we ended up going through, it was the third person we actually like had a full on like interview process with, that we ended up hiring. And it was a great learning experience to go through, because we thought the first guy that responded to the job ad was like, on paper, we're like, dude, you're so overqualified. Why are you even interested in this job? Like, something just didn't add up. But I'm really thankful for it, because it was a really solid experience, because we've never interviewed or like, talked to anybody
now
for that level. So it's like, well, all right, let's see what's going on here. And, but it was the second guy that we interviewed, and we got really far. We sent him an offer. Like, we were talking back and forth. He really considered it. He was like it was a distance thing. Like, he was local, but not quite. And like the commute was just going to be, yeah.
And so, you need that guy to be present enough. Like, somebody's got to be there for the dudes.
Yeah. But what it came down to, and how the whole sort of culmination of us finding the actual guy in the end came about, was the second guy. We were on a Zoom call, and he told us that, he was going to decline, and he was going to have to pass. And he was like, he really liked us. He loved the team. Like, he really wanted to be a part of it, but it just couldn't. He asked me a question. He's like, Jon, why are you hiring for this position? And I stopped for a second, because I'm like, why are you asking me that now? Like, you just told me no. Like, dude, like, you just crushed me. I was so excited. Now you're telling me no. Like, why are you asking me this question? But I stopped for a second, and I came back to the bottleneck. And I said, Matt, I just realized, like, I am constantly the bottleneck in the business right now. And I wanted to grow past me. So I need somebody who's been there and done that. And if it has gone through these experiences that I'm stuck in right now, to get us through it. And he stopped for a second after I said that. And he's like, you need to write down what you just told me and put that in your job ad, because that's going to resonate with somebody. And that's the person that you want on your team.
Yeah.
And I was like,
which is hilariously simple, and something that you just need somebody else to like, hey, dummy, like, look at the thing. You just told what you need to tell, but you forgot to tell it when you're supposed to tell it.
Yeah. And you need to put it on paper so other people can see it. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks. Okay. So it didn't sting as much anymore when he said no, because I was a little excited. So I did exactly that. We hung up Zoom call, pulled the Indeed ad up, put that as the second paragraph, and I put it in bold. The very next guy that responded to the job ad, he wrote a cover letter referencing that paragraph.
Oh,
and said, I've been through this. I know exactly what you're feeling right now. I felt it myself and I've gotten past it and I want to help you.
Had he owned his own business or just been a CEO for a similar size business before? What was
so he was in the franchise space. He owned personal training franchises. So he owned, I forget exactly how many now. It was multiple over a couple states. And he was in the fitness world. So he had a couple like brick and mortar gyms in the Philly area too, that he sold some of his stake in, but like he was still sort of a partner in. But you know, with franchises, like when you sell a franchise, you're not rolling in the dough. So he wasn't like totally financially free. Like he's okay, but he still just loves business. And man, he's been with us just over a year. This past week was a full year with us, and he's integrated so well into our team, and like just from a culture fit and everything, like he gets it. And he comments all the time, like, this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to come with you guys. It's just the culture. Like you guys have such a good culture here. Your systems are solid. Like we didn't have to like recreate the wheel from the technical side, like in the field. Like you guys got that. It was like the sales stuff, the marketing, like those types of things. And that he really, and like the customer service from like getting back to leads and all those types of things.
Some of those like slippery places where growth can get halted because you end up being a bottleneck. And I run into that over and over again with like the $1 to low $1 million companies. They get stuck there because the owner is still the grower. And there's nobody else on the team that can grow the business. And it's funny because it's like we can look at what we do and be like, here's the things I do to grow the business. Go. But it's not like, it's just not that easy, right? And it's just these like minute little things that we do that we don't, to us, it's just like a thing. It's just an activity. But if you really like document it all and like wrote it all down and scripted it all out, like there's a lot going on there. And it's just not a skill set that a lot of people have. It's really weird.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. And I see it a lot too, working with people. And the thing too is that, and I'm sort of speaking to myself from what I've experienced in the past, right? So speaking from experiences, entrepreneurs, like we want to go fast. And we feel like in order to go fast, there's something better on the other side, like that we're not doing. Like there's something better that we're not doing. So we abandon sometimes the things that are working to try these other things that we think are going to work better, but they actually don't. And then we never realize to go back to the thing that was actually working in the first place that we just like kicked to the curb.
Yep.
And that's why we're stuck in this like perpetual loop of frustration that we can't grow, because we find something that works and then we like shove it down and like, no, this thing's cooler over here. Like talk about shiny object syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, oh, new Rob with the CRMs and like, oh, the marketing. Sorry, Rob, but you know, don't want to make an example of you, but
you're a good example of this.
But you're a good example, right? I mean, so you know, CRMs and marketing things, like even services, right? Like some people are always adding on these extra layers of service that like just add so much complexity to your business. And I forget, somebody said it in the chat early on, but like find your niche and go deep in it. Like, you know, Wesley Bloom in Atlanta, like that dude's a maniac. And his service area is like, I don't know, 10 miles or something in Atlanta. And the guy's doing like $3 or $4 million a year, just pressure washing. I think he just added Christmas lights, but.
And like waited till millions a year to add a thing.
Yes.
Millions a year.
But that's the point, right? Like we overcomplicate things as business owners and entrepreneurs because we think there's something better that's going to get us there faster on the other side. Yep. But it comes back down to like the Vince Lombardi thing of like the beginning of every season. It's like basics, like, gentlemen, this is a football, and the blocking and the tackling, and focus on the things that work. And when you find something that works, stick with it until it doesn't work. not until you break it, but until it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I that's a thing I look back at my days at Blue Skies, and I'm like thankful we tried a lot of things, and it really helped me understand what doesn't work. That like is a lot of the education you get from doing too many things and spreading out geographically, and just so I say often, like, I will never do that again, but I don't regret it. Like, it was a really shitty business model that we had, and it was a dumb idea, but it was great in all the lessons that we learned from it that are just priceless. And if I'm coaching and doing like CFO stuff and I can help a little bit to help people stay focused, one of my new rules is I'm not adding any new services, no shiny objects until we're at least 1 million. Like, that's a new rule that I have for any business that I work on, which is no shiny objects until at least 1 million. Because usually at about 1 million, you're solving the problem of who else can grow this thing. And until you solve that, like if it's a pressure washing business, until you solve who can grow this thing, it's really hard for you to turn your attention into starting and growing a new thing. Because then this thing's not going to grow over here because it still needs you to grow it. And you can't grow two things at once.
And you're spread too thin and nothing works.
Yeah. And then it's like you're spinning plates over here, and then you turn around and you're spinning plates over here, and it's all dependent on you. And all that happens is you burn out and you're miserable. And that's what happened to me at Blue Skies. We had like 10 different companies around the country with 100 employees, and it was still dependent on me to grow everything. It was the stupidest thing. I was fucking miserable, and I was terrible at it, because how the hell are you supposed to do that anyway? I still remember, like, when I first started, I was starting a maid service business from scratch, and I'm out cleaning. Like, we're starting from scratch. I'm out scrubbing toilets. Actually, the biggest downside of the biggest upside of that was I was in really good shape. Like, cleaning houses, 2-3 houses a day, that's a lot of work. I lost 20 pounds real quick. The biggest downside is you're in the house, right? You're like cleaning and you're on the phone, and you got this problem happening in St. Louis, and then this window cleaner's having an issue in Cincinnati, and it's like, it's hard enough to solve these problems in a business that's where you are.
Yeah.
How are you going to solve these problems? And we had all these small businesses, right? So it wasn't like we had GMs at these businesses. We had technicians trying to solve these problems. Yeah. And so, like, do you have there were a lot of $200,000 to $500,000 businesses, right? Like, there's no money there to hire the right person to run it. We had some great people that tried, and there's some awesome people that ran businesses for us, some of which have stuck with us in other businesses and have helped, right? And so, like, we still had a lot of great people, but we had an impossible strategy. And again, it's like, I know enough now to never do that again, but I don't regret it, because now when we're doing bookkeeping for people or whatever it is that we're into, or coaching, whatever it is, there's so many lessons learned. Like, you can't learn lessons any faster than that. That's about as fast as you can go. But man, it is funny how slippery the slope is as you get spread out. I like this one. What beer helps your business grow the quickest? Busch Light, of course. Like, you don't want a heavy beer that's going to bog you down and slow you down. You need a light beer, preferably on ice even. Then you stay hydrated while you're drinking your shitty light beer. It goes down smooth, and you're ready to get up early and do it again the next day. Tristan pointed out, John, that you're a farmer now, got the new business adventure with the tractor, especially as you start throwing the saffron in the ground.
That's right.
Man, you could be a rich farmer too. Tristan said, great info and experience examples. Great listening to you guys live. Thanks for hanging out live, Tristan. Appreciate the nods here.
Tristan's my shark fishing buddy.
There we go. We do need to get to some shark fishing stories here. And I drop. This is like a conversation about having. I got another thing to drop on you. Pressure washing. Sterling Wash says Michelob Light. Now, I'm in Minnesota, which is like the home of Michelob Light. Like, there's a lot of Mick Lights flowing around here. I'm not. Again, if they wanted to sponsor the show, I'm the biggest Michelob Light fan. That's the one thing where it's just like some beer. Just give me some beers to drink while I'm talking. Throw a few bucks at the show to pay for Jai to produce it. We good. We covered. So I'm not turning down Michelob Light. It's not my favorite light beer, but a light beer is a light beer. Like, who are we kidding here?
Keeps it nimble.
Sid the Kid says, John, the Tractor Karmazyn. That'll just be like, there's basketball players called the Tractor. No, you're the Tractor. feel like that's it. That's what it is. When I hear the tractor, I just feel like that's you trucking somebody over. I don't feel like maybe when you're playing hockey, you're like that physical dude. I don't see you as a dude trucking people over. Are you a dude that's trucking people over?
In my younger years, I was, yes.
You were that guy. That was my role.
I play. We play with a bunch of older guys now, and we all have to we have families, and most of us has to.
Hey, we're all trying not to get hurt out here, boys.
Exactly. So I try to be smart about it. There are some younger guys that we play with that they still think they're in their 20s and just whatever. Well, some of them are actually, but anyway.
The bastards.
I digress. Yeah.
Oh man, to be 20 again. Yeah. I ran today in the first mile. I was just like, ow, 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 ow. By the last couple miles, I was feeling a little bit better, but took me a little minute to get the old bones moving. So I want to talk some shark fishing, but here's an idea that is starting to float around that I think I don't know exactly how we're gonna do this, but I'm already starting to do it accidentally, which is I loved BBB. That was a sweet thing. There's a BBB reunion thing going on this summer that I'm not gonna be able to make it to, but I loved it when it was the super tight group, and I never really liked the businessy stuff of it. I never get a lot of value out of the businessy stuff. Same with conventions and stuff like that. I don't get a lot out of the speakers. I get a lot out of the extracurriculars, just being there, being around the right people. Of course, that's where I get the most. I don't know that's for everybody. But I do my annual ice fishing trip. That's a thing that I've been doing, and I want to get the right people coming to that ice fishing trip. I've got a Boundary Waters canoe trip coming up in a couple weeks. That's a cool place to get some business owners out going. And I don't remember if it was Clay or Derek Davis. One of the Davis bros up here in Minneapolis had said after our ice fishing trip, why don't we do a business owner get together sort of thing, like a quarterly thing, but it's really just a hunting or fishing event. And there's not a business agenda. There's no we're working on this or we're working on that. It's just we're literally just going to all get together in some type of hunting or fishing thing that's facilitated for us to hang out. It'd be tough to do a whitetail hunting get together because you segregate and you go sit separately. But ice fishing, you're all together. Boundary Waters, you're sitting at campsites out in the middle of nowhere all together. Duck hunting, you're sitting in blinds together, and then you're back at the lodge all together. Maybe ocean fishing, you're out on a boat all together. And so I think there's something there where you'd have quarterly events, no real agenda. You'd maybe need to pool together to have a VA. I already told Angela, when we were on earlier, Cole Sycophus had asked, can you hire a VA that would be really good at figuring out state preference points and putting in for tags and unit draws and a bunch of Western hunting questions. That was his question. I was like, that's actually a really good point because we're going to need a VA for the quarterly business owner outdoorsy get together with no agenda, but they're at least going to have to coordinate the where we're going and how many people we got and probably taking deposits from people. So we're going to need a VA for that. And they might as well get some expertise and preference points so that they can help if anybody wants to go out west and do an elk hunt or something, maybe an ad hoc event. Jeremy says, you know how I roll, San Diego event anytime. We'll do it. I had said, Jeremy, earlier, I said, we're probably going to have to trade off a fishing event with Jeremy and then with Devino the next year. We'll just bounce back and forth coast to coast. Or maybe we'd do 2 a year. I don't know. But I think there's Alicia says, what is BBB? Used to be business bourbon and bullshit is what it was. Now there's a different name for it, but it's a name I haven't adopted because I'm still BBB is never gonna. It's always gonna be BBB to me. Sid called me old man Dan, which is super true. I'm really getting a lot the white here is just slowly creeping out. It's
that touch, just the touch of gray.
That I just can't. They make the beard coloring for that, to be the George Clooney. And I'm just kind of no, an awkward, random, kind of not perfectly centered amount of gray. That's Dan Plata style gray. Not intentional, just a little bit off. That's my kind of gray. Sterling Wash says Dan should have been a radio personality, I think is what he was going for there. which I am, because I got the Turfs Up Radio show every Wednesday afternoon. Check it out. Home Service Happy Hour, Turfs Up Radio. I make a terrible radio personality, though. They're like polished and they have organized segments, and I'm unpolished with disorganized segments. So there's like a mismatch there. But I have a lot of fun doing it. John, shark fishing. What do you got on the agenda? When is shark fishing season? Are we in it? Did we miss it? Is it coming up? When's the go time? And what are you going for?
Well, shark fishing season is really all year.
Whenever you want. Is there like an open season for it where you can keep them, or is it like what's the fishing license tag type of situation?
Yeah, I'm not super well versed like across the country because it's different per state, but North Carolina and Florida are the two that I know enough in, and there's certain limits based on the species and the size that you can harvest.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I don't have plans on harvesting a 12-foot hammerhead shark, right? Like
got plans on catching one, maybe not harvesting one.
Yes, catching, but not harvesting. So our trip is we're like 3 weeks away from going to our North Carolina one, which I'm stoked about.
Excellent.
So our hope is, big tiger shark or hammerhead. That's one of the two that are like.
That's what Tristan said. He said, depends where you're at. Big tiger, big hammer coming this summer.
Yep.
Is there a shark that's like known to fight the best where you'd be like, oh, that one's going to be a blast to catch? I feel like any shark, you're going to be like, Jesus, like hanging onto that rod with everything you got.
The tigers and the hammers probably are like a great hammer. Like those things are nuts. Like I've only heard stories. I actually haven't hooked up with one, but the local guys down in North Carolina that we've met over the last couple of years going down there, they've told us stories about, they've got like this massive reel.
Oh shit.
And like an Avit 130, like massive thing, and full strike on that thing. And it's just peeling the line off, just going. And they're like, yeah, there's no way we ain't stopping that sucker. So, they were targeting a great white this winter. They didn't actually get one, but the guys down in Florida ended up they got one. They caught a great white off the coast, off the Panhandle coast.
Oh shit!
And it was I think it was about 12 or 13 foot great white.
That's scary.
From the shore. It's you paddle the baits out, a few hundred yards, between like 300 to 500 yards off the shore, depending on what the drop off is there in the sandbars and stuff. Yeah. You drop the bait out and we reel them in from the shore. We're not going out on boats. So
how far out is this? Like 100 yards, 200 yards?
Where we normally fish, we're going about anywhere from like 250 on the shorter drops to about 300 to 400 yards out. We got some bigger gear the end of last year, and as long as the conditions are decent, because we're just going out in a kayak paddling.
Yeah.
Out, so
I was gonna say that can be treacherous enough in and of itself.
If the conditions are good enough, like we'll ship it out 500 yards, but we've got about I think on my
it's a nice par 5. Get it out there a couple.
Yeah, that's solid. We did a trip at the end of September last year, and we went out with a bunch of guys. It was just a guys trip for a long weekend, and it was the last day, and the waves were pretty choppy, and we got the first drop we had on the trip. We hooked up in the first like 10 minutes of dropping the bait, and we're like, oh man, this is going to be an awesome weekend.
Let me stop you for a sec. What is the bait? Is it live? Is it dead? Is it off the bottom? Is it on the bottom? What are you running?
So it's dead. And for that, usually we get like amberjack. So decent size. I mean, the chunks are probably about 4 to 6 pounds, somewhere in that range. So good size.
Like we'll put this one on the shark bait hook. This one we'll keep back on the tailgate of the truck and fry this baby up. This one's bait. This one looks pretty good. We'll fry this baby up.
Some stingray occasionally, if you can get some, is good. So yeah, that's what circle hook, drop it down with a spider weight and like a 5-foot steel leader.
Okay, so it's got a little bit of movement to it with the swell going on. Is there any risk like that hook just busting, like, or getting bit off from them?
I mean, it can, but I mean, it's a steel leader, so that's the risk of that's pretty low. But we have, I think it's 130-pound monofilament that goes out, and then you've got the steel leader coming off of that. So you've got enough slack there between the monofilament. Sometimes, like if one we've had it before, it happened, I think twice last year, where you've got the line out and they're just like swimming through with their mouth open and and the line like just goes slack, and like you lost your whole rig. It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn it. And then it circles back and takes your bait.
Exactly. Yeah.
Those are the smart tricks.
Yeah. But last year, oh man, in September, it was towards the end. It was pretty rough out there, but we're like, we got all these guys, like more than half of them never shark fished before. So we're like, we're hoping to catch another one here. So I end up paddling one out, and the little bungee nets on the back of the kayak, we just kind of hook the bait in there, and you set the drag to free spool and just start paddling the baits out. You get through the waves and it gets all right, but it's still rolling pretty good, right? And we got smart in years past. We got walkie-talkies, and so they can tell you like, hey, how far are you? How far do you have to go? Go left, go right. So that works out so we can place where we want to drop it. And I get out to where we want to drop it, and I drop the weight. I dropped the bait, and normally the spider weight goes with it. Well, the spider weight got hung up in the bungee behind me in the kayak, and I'm sitting probably 300 yards off the shore here with like these 4-foot swells,
and you're getting turned sideways.
Exactly, sideways. I was out there, Dan, what felt like for an hour. Tristan will probably say it was probably only like 10 minutes, but it felt like eternity. Fighting this thing, trying to get it unhooked, and I'm just praying that I don't get dumped out here because I got this circle hook with this big piece of amberjack floating there. I'm like, I'm done if I turn over. And
I'm finally got it real quick.
I finally got it unhooked. And then Tristan's on the radio, like, dude, just drop it and come back. And I like look where I was, and I drifted like probably 100 yards, north on the shore. And I'm like, I wanted to be the other direction. So I turned around. I'm like, screw it.
I was telling them to drop it and come in.
So I'm like, I'm out here. We're going to make this happen. So I turned around and just paddled it, got it to where we wanted it, and dropped it. And we still didn't catch a damn thing. So not worth it, but it made for a good story.
I mean, that's kind of like, I think there's something about any kind of fishing or hunting. And there's probably a reason why business owners are attracted to those hobbies, which is it's a shitload of work with just very minimal payback and random payback. But when you get the payback, it's like glorious, like the euphoria of like, holy shit, we got one, is totally worth all the pain and suffering. But we have learned as business owners to put up with a tremendous amount of pain and suffering for an extended period of time. And we're really good at being uncomfortable too, for the most part. Like that is just a weird skill set that a lot of us have. We can just be uncomfortable for a long period of time. And I think that's why there's a good correlation between like business owners and outdoorsy people. We're just nuts. We're just gluttons for punishment. And we kind of like it. Not in the moment. We also like complaining about it in the moment, but after the fact, we love to tell stories about it more than the complaining part. So we still keep doing it.
The stories are part of the reward too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I get it. What's the biggest shark you guys have caught? What's the biggest one you got measured up? Do you weigh them? Do you measure them? Do you release them all? What do you do?
Yeah, we measure them. So I'd say, I think the last one we got was a 6-footer. That was the biggest.
Nice.
So yeah, it's fun. The first one I caught was about 5.
What does a 6-footer weigh? 100, 150 pounds? 200 pounds? I'm just under 6 foot and I'm 200 pounds. What does
Yeah.
the shark come in at?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if Tristan's still on, if he'd chime in on that, but I'd say probably around 200 pounds, 250 maybe. Depends on the species.
You
Obviously,
caught a plot of shark. Very average size. Average size. Probably really good at hockey if you would ever played that.
They're about medium, you know.
Yeah, extra medium size. Every time somebody asks me like what size of t-shirt I want, I always tell them I want an extra medium, and they just don't know what to do about it. They're just like, oh, we don't have that size. I'm just like, of course you fucking don't have that size. That's not a real size.
It's not a real thing.
It was a joke because there's extra smalls and there's extra larges, and I want an extra medium. Anyway.
Yeah.
He says his guess is a 6-footer is mid 100s.
Okay. So I was a little high.
I'd buy that. I'd like your guess better. I'd say in true fisherman format, I would say something like, I don't think it went 400 pounds. It's just true. Yeah. It's just it's the same thing. I don't think it went.
Well, like Tristan said, when you're dragging it back into the water, that's like your only kind of gauge as to how heavy it is.
Yeah.
And you know, you kind of got it's floating a little bit at that point. So like it's hard to tell.
Yeah. What sharks are you mostly catching?
Black tips and spinners.
Those are the most prevalent. Sound like baits you'd use bass fishing.
Yeah.
What are you flogging today? I'm running the black tip. I think I'm gonna throw a spinner.
Exactly.
Maybe that's where they got bass fishing bait names from. Had to be. Do you ever eat them?
Not yet, but I've heard black tips pretty good. So
if
we can get one that's legal size to harvest this year, we're doing it.
Is that like a grill type of fish? Is it a fry type of fish? Is it I
heard you can another way to cut them up into steaks and grill them, and they're good.
Is it a sushi type of fish?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know about that.
But Tristan, weigh in.
Yeah, we need some expert here.
Yeah. I have I'm clearly this is not going to surprise anybody, but I just have a thing about like killing stuff and eating it. That's just my favorite way to procure food. I would much rather. I don't love to eat seafood. Like if I'm at a seafood restaurant, I'm probably getting a burger. I just don't unless I caught the seafood and brought it to them, and I know where it came from and how it got there. Like I'm just not a huge seafood fan. But damn, I like it when it's mine. Like there's just, and I don't know if it tastes any different, but mentally it does. And I think if I could go hunt my own cows, I would like ground beef a lot more too. Someday. But mostly I just eat venison. He said, no sushi, too much mercury in them. You got to soak them and they make great steaks. What are you soaking them in? I assume it's like a milk soak to get some of the oil out. Is it a milk soak or a water soak or a milky water soak?
Milky water.
Like something like that.
Is it like coconut water? I don't know.
That could work. I don't know. We always, whenever we had like frozen fish that was kind of oily, we'd always soak them in some milk. Because kind of like if you eat spicy food, water can't take the spice away because the spice is an oil-based spice usually, and so water doesn't do shit. But milk can take it away because milk can cling to the oil. And so when you have really fishy fish, you can soak them in some oil. Or some milk. That was what he said. Milk, you can do water, but milk is better. I'm smelling you, Tristan. I'm with you. Now I want to report. I want like a 1-page, classic middle school style report back on what black tip shark tastes like.
Okay. We can do that.
Long? So you're going to North Carolina. How long are you guys there for?
We're a week.
Oh, you're going to haul them in. Would you keep a tiger shark or a hammerhead, or are those like, is it like when you're a bass fisherman, you never keep bass? Are there sharks that are like, oh, you would never keep one of those?
Yeah. I don't know what honestly, like, it would be awesome to like keep a tiger shark. Like it'd be so cool to like mount a freaking like up on the wall behind me in my office here. Like that'd be so cool. But
your wife's going to love that, man. She's going to be all over that.
But it's like, what do I do with it? Like, it's not, I'm at the beach and like, I don't know. I guess I can call a place to like a taxidermy place and say like, hey, can you come pick this up? Cause I've just got my SUV here. Like, I don't Am I just going to throw a 8-foot tiger shark on the roof of my SUV and haul it over?
I think if they're that big, you're just taking pictures and they're doing a replica. I think that's what, like, if it's ocean fish, I think that's kind of what you do most of the time, because to actually like really mount that real fish would be a pain in the,
yeah.
Even now, I like a lot of freshwater, smaller fish. They're starting to do that. I did take, John Maynard just got his crappie back from a couple years ago when we were out ice fishing. And that taxidermist was like, no, I want the real thing. Like, if it's this big, then let's just do a fake one, because it's a pain in my ass to try to like use the real one to do it. And if you catch a 52-inch muskie, everybody's going to be pissed if you mount the real thing anyway. Like, you're better off just taking some pictures and throwing it back, because muskie fishermen are assholes about you keeping any muskie. And I assume like sharks would be kind of be the same way. There's probably like sharks where there's like, oh, you can't keep that. Right.
Yeah.
But mounting it or not, I'd still be like, I want to eat it. I want to know what this guy tastes like. There's enough tiger sharks out there in the world. This one's going in my belly. That's kind of how I'd feel about it.
Tiger sharks, that's a big shark too. There's a lot of meat on that sucker.
You catch a small one. You'd eat a small one.
Yeah.
For the mercury. It's because of the mercury. You don't want all the mercury from the big one. Yeah. What do we got here? Sterling Wash says, out camping and hungry, killed a squirrel, just cooked it over the fire, got sick. I'm curious if you got sick because you undercooked it, or did you forget to gut it? Like, I feel like it was probably one of those two things. Squirrel can be really good. I've had me some squirrel in the day. Jeremy says, Joe Devon knows stomping grounds, North Carolina. I'm sure he knows sharks on a first name basis. Just like dudes name big bucks, and they're like, oh, that's Freddie. Oh, that's Big Nine. Oh, that's like dudes always name their big whitetail bucks. Joe's out there naming sharks.
Big Nine. That sounds like a rapper.
That probably is, and a buck. Tristan said you can keep those, but from what I heard, the smaller tippers are better eating. Like smaller tippers, like cheapskates, when they go out to restaurants, they tip like shit.
We're talking about cannibalism now. Hold on a second.
Eat those ones. What else we got here? Sterling Wash says, what's the guy catching 900-pound tiger shark in Rob Anderson's country of Ocean City, Maryland on a dock? I don't know. I didn't see that one. No, I want to.
900-pound tiger from the dock. Yikes. That's a big one.
Skip says the biggest mako I ever caught was a 36-footer with twin outboards. Skip used to do Skip could define it better than I would, but basically he was like the salvage boat dude. Like, he would go get boats that needed to be gotten. So he got himself a mako. I bet that one tasted like shit. Probably that's some
mako would be a fun one though. I was supposed to.
Those are down. Those are down in those parts, right? That's like not totally out of the question.
It's not out of the question.
Deep water.
The makos, to my understanding, is you should float your baits to catch makos, because they're not really bottom feeders as much as the other sharks are.
You just need a big ass bobber. Your bobber.
So basically, you need a big. They call them float rigs, and it's some guys take like a cinder block and tie the float rig to it, and then just dump that, and that holds at the bottom, and then it just floats the rest up. It's like 30 feet of leader or something like that.
Okay.
Where you're at. But anyway, I was back in April, beginning of April, we were supposed to, we did go down to Florida, to the Panhandle, to the Destin area. Mm-hmm. And guys I follow on YouTube, Coastal Worldwide, they have a land-based charter down there. And for my birthday, my wife and my kids bought a charter for me with those guys.
Land-based charter. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. And I was
Who brings the beer? Who brings the beer to a land-based charter?
It was like everything, right? They got like the little tent set up with the heater, because you do it overnight. And but the conditions were awful. Like, there was a couple nasty storms that ripped through, and we were down there, and the trip ended up getting canceled. So I was so bummed, because those are the guys that caught the great white down there over the winter.
Yeah,
they caught a bunch of hammers, they've caught a bunch of tigers and a couple makos. I'm like, oh man, like, this is gonna be so cool. And then the trip got canceled. So
I did a lot of river fishing back when I was in college. Like that was the accessible fishing. We'd shore fish on a river. And so we didn't have to kayak our baits out. We're just, going for rough fish and get a walleye or bass here or there. And we had a rig with a 3-way swivel. And so your line would be connected to one, and we'd have a big egg sinker above the swivel. And so you'd launch that baby out there, but then off of the other 2 pieces of it, one was a bear hook with a crawler on it. That would be your piece of amberjack. The other was a floating jig that would go up in the current. And so just depending on what kind of fish and what else was going on, like some days the floating jig was getting them, and some days the crawler on the bottom was getting them.
Wow.
I feel like that's what you need. You get a 3-way swivel down there with a big egg sinker in front of it. One thing's going up, one thing's going down. You're in the game no matter what.
Could you imagine if both hooked up at the same time?
It did happen once or twice. And I don't think it was like they hooked up at the same time. I think sometimes what happens is you have a fish on, and then other fish are like, what the fuck's going on over here? And they're like, check this out. Like, I'm going to eat one too. And then you end up being like, oh, like now what? Like this thing just got harder to reel in. Like there were a couple times where that happened, or you'd catch a fish and it would have eaten both of the baits. And you're just like, damn, like that little guy, like we caught a perch one time that just had both baits just fully. And we were like, we must be terrible fishermen if he was on so long that he had time to eat both of these baits, and he was stupid that he had a hook already down his throat, and he was like, I think I could go for one more. Like, I think I got one more in me. We caught him. The real problem with that rig though is like every time you reel it in, it's a tangled mess.
Oh, of course.
Because it's just coming in doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And so you spend like 5 minutes just trying to undo it before you cast it back out and make another bird's nest the next time you throw it out there.
Well, how does it get cast out and not get into a rat's nest on the way out?
I'm sure it happened on the way out, but you were just happy. Like we'd only go like 2 to 3 feet of lead on either side. So it wasn't like you had tons of lead out. Yeah. But yeah, they did like to, especially because we'd usually run like a mono lead. We'd run braid and then mono on the lead so that if you did get hung up, you could break it off and you wouldn't be breaking off the whole setup. Right. But and mono with any memory just is already trying to do this.
Yeah.
And they just, it's amazing what fishing line can do. Even when they're not in current, not prompted, fishing line can tie itself in a knot that you would never be able to tie.
Yeah.
It does incredible things. I feel like technicians can do the same thing at job sites every once in a while. Like some of the shit they pull off, you're just like, you couldn't do that again if you tried. Possible. And that's fishing line.
Yeah.
Jeremy said he gets huge wow, easy for me to say. Huge makos out here in California. Float baits along with a chum bucket to make a slick. Jeremy and I were trying to make some chum a couple weeks ago when I was out there for Clippa. We just had people puking over the side of the boat, and that seemed to be doing the trick to chum it up and make it slick. We had a little bit of that going on.
I'm bummed I couldn't make it to the Clippa one.
The fishing wasn't, we had a rough day of fishing. It wasn't the best day of fishing. It was a good day of sitting out and some people getting seasick, myself included. I was like feeling it in the morning. Might have been the hangover. And then I got enough beers in me to where I was fine. I just had to like fight fire with fire. But any day you get out fishing is just like a day I wasn't out not fishing. So that's a win.
It's a win.
I'm excited for this Boundary Waters trip coming up. And like I said, I think I got to start turning it into like a business owner. There's got to be like a sequence of events. And it'll be like a open invite. Like, I don't know what the restrictions will be, because it can't just be like everybody being like, I'm coming, right? Like, they're very, even like the Boundary Waters, the most you can really have at a campsite is like 8. And you got to be pretty fucking physically fit, because you're carrying shit miles and miles and miles and miles and portaging and canoeing. So there's not every trip's going to be for everybody, but I think there's something to it.
I definitely want to do one of the duck ones if you've got one of those lined up.
I don't have one lined up, but I think that's a good, like the only ones we've done really so far. Like I've done the Boundary Waters one with just really small groups. I've done the ice fishing one a couple times, and like we can make that happen. And trying to think of like what those other like benchmark events could be. I think an ocean fishing event would be awesome with the right group of folks. Jeremy, we're coming out. We're doing an overnight trip for that one, Jeremy. And then I think duck hunting would be fun, like a couple days at like a real duck hunting lodge.
Yeah.
Like that'd be a cool experience to do with a bunch of business owners. And I think that's the fall trip. That's gonna be the fall trip. So anyway, I think I gotta start sorting that out. Got to start figuring that out. But anyway, John,
best damn business excursions or something, right?
Yeah, it's got to be something like that.
But you got to get to 1 million first before we do this.
This is not going to be a for-profit venture. This is going to be a for beer drinking and hanging out with business owners venture, and therefore it won't be a distraction to the existing business model.
And this counts as a write-off for all the business owners that are going, correct?
Of course. Yeah, it's a mastermind event. Yeah,
that's right,
for sure. It'll have to be like its own entity. Maybe I'll make it a not-for-profit. Maybe I'll just make it a not-for-profit. We'll see. We'll figure it out. A lot to be figured out, but I think it's a thing that needs to happen. It's not my idea, but I feel like I'm gonna be the one that ends up executing on it. But I'm gonna need some Clay and Derek help for it, especially for the Minnesota stuff. We'll figure out. Each kind of event will need like a spearheader for their for who's local, right? If we do something out in Jeremy's neck of the woods out in San Diego, like he'll have to be the one that helps set it up because you just need that local expertise. The local expertise is going to be huge. But I'm all about it. It'd be a lot of fun. Let's do this, John. We got to wrap this baby up. We're hitting that 2 hour mark. We're hitting the highly coveted 2 hour mark. Happens fast.
Yeah, it
does. Which and if you're out there still watching, what the hell's wrong with you guys? Isn't it past your bedtime? What are you doing still watching this? I guess if you're Jeremy and you're out in California, I get it. But I think that's like the epitome of this show is it's just if like John and I got together and we just had time to hang out. This is exactly the conversation that we would have had. We could have been sitting at a bar. We could have been sitting at a mastermind. We could have been sitting on a StreamYard live thing doing this. But that's what I want this show to be. It's just two dudes hanging out, talking shop, talking nonsense. A couple beers in, as would be expected. But that's what we'd be doing anyway. So now we're just doing it with you guys getting to hang out. So I appreciate you hanging out. I got one more question for you, John. First, for all you listeners out there, I do a really bad job of promoting my business. If you need bookkeeping help, there's a QR code on here somewhere. So hit me up if you need bookkeeping help. If you don't have the podcast, go get because you might not be able to catch us live because I go live at weird times. Go get the Home Service Happy Hour podcast, wherever your favorite podcasts are podcasted. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say, like wherever you get podcasts, and go subscribe to the YouTube channel because we put like little nuggets out there. Cool little ditties. John, I got a closing question for you. Then we'll wrap this baby up. If you weren't running a pressure washing business, I won't exclude home service companies, but I'll exclude like your current company. And money kind of not an object. Like it's got to be a little bit of an object, but mostly not an object. Like assume whatever you do will make you enough money to survive and pay for your stuff. But you could do anything you fucking wanted tomorrow. You could be a pro shark fishing guide tomorrow. What would you drop everything and go do tomorrow?
I should have a quicker answer to this, but
it's an impossible question. I don't know.
Yeah.
The minute you give me an answer and we hang up, you're going to be like, you know what? I should have said this. You're going to come up with something else. So don't feel that.
I mean, look, the shark fishing thing would be fun, right? Saffron farmer, maybe. I don't know.
We'll find out. That might happen in the near future.
It might. We'll see. But I mean, I think really what I really enjoy business and I enjoy talking about it. And like this was fun because like we talked about a lot of cool things, but we also kind of talked about some business here and there and wove it together, and it's all cool. And I really just I would just want to help people who feel like they're stuck in business and are that bottleneck that I've experienced and felt, because honestly, I feel very fortunate and blessed to have like had the right people speak into me. And I'm thankful that I had the ears to hear when they were talking to me.
That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part, is like setting the ego aside to be able to take the coaching and the advice to do the right thing.
Sometimes there's two parts of the equation, and if you're not willing to hear and, humble yourself to it, then somebody could just be screaming at you all day long for years and it doesn't make a difference. So, but I just have a heart for people that are just stuck in business, because business is hard enough as it is. We don't need to make it harder on ourselves by doing stupid things over and over again that me or somebody else has already been through and can help them through it faster. And I mean, you kind of talk about this before, like you get to those sort of milestone thresholds, and like from a revenue standpoint, that just like suck all your cash out of your business. And then like, so you're working your butt off, but then you have no money, and it's like, this sucks. So you want to get through that as fast as possible. And I don't know, I have a heart for helping people do that, because I feel like if I really truly do feel like if people are winning in their business, they're going to serve their family better. And if they're going to serve their family better, then the whole world wins. So sounds maybe a little too corny and rah-rah, but it's true. I mean, it's the way it is.
It's a passion project. Let me so I have a second closing question, because you say helping your marketing not suck. Are you specifically helping people with their marketing? Are you doing something specific that we need to talk about before we hang this thing up so that you can plug a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on here to plug things, but if you're giving me the chance to, I will. Like, I've got a program that we run that is a 10-week money making implementation program. So we go through 10-week program where we get together and we talk about 10 different strategies, one every week, that you can literally implement that week, that will cost you $0 in marketing, but will help you increase your frequency, the amount of times your customers are buying from you. It will increase your referrals. It will increase your average ticket, and it'll help you strategically increase your pricing without losing all your customers. But if you lose some customers, that's okay. Yeah, it's okay, by increasing your
right customers.
Yeah. So it's a 10-week money making implementation program. It's a mouthful, I know. But we go through that. There's some really cool things that go along with that. If you're interested, you can hit me up on Facebook. Just shoot me a message, and we could chat more about it.
Is there like a URL or anything you want me to drop in the show notes or the comments?
Not really. I mean, there's stuff, but just hit me up on Facebook.
All right. Jon Karmazyn. You can tell because of the way his name is on the screen. And if you're catching this podcast later, it's also going to be in the show notes there. So go find Jon on Facebook and hit him up and say, help me with my damn marketing, Jon.
Yeah. Marketing's expensive, man. We didn't get to talk about it, but man, I spent a whole lot of money on marketing that didn't pay off, and I got sick and tired of it. So I finally got it figured out, and it's a whole lot better when you can kind of know what you're doing with it.
It's a fast place. It's a fast place to lose 10 grand. It's Vegas. It's Vegas as a business owner. Like, you can lose a lot of money really quick on some bad marketing.
I lost $43,000 2 years ago in 3 months.
What did you do there?
One marketing channel.
Which one was it? Not to tell people not to do it, because there's different marketing things that work at different points in time. But do you mind sharing what it was? Because I got one that's like got an $80,000 thing to it.
So it was Valpak, but it was Valpak with like coupled with postcards. So
yeah. Ours was we had been doing radio for a long time, and it slowly was getting worse and worse and worse. And the last year we did it was 2022. And we dropped about 80 grand on it. And it wasn't that it didn't work at all. I'll say we got like, I forget how many clients we got, but our client acquisition cost for a business that has an average job size, like we do mostly window cleaning, average job size around $400, $500. Our client acquisition cost was pushing $1,000 from these radio ads. It was not a super sustainable. I mean, like, we might as well lit 80 grand on fire.
Yeah, the math doesn't work in that scenario.
It didn't work out. We actually, this isn't to talk anybody out of sponsoring my podcast. That's a beer company. We'll make sure we do you right here. But we sponsored a local Minneapolis podcast, and they did such a shitty job of representing us. It actually made me like really in tune with, if we do get a sponsor, like how I can support them. The sponsor that we had didn't even let us come out and clean their windows for them. It was like, how the hell are you going to talk? How the hell are you going to talk about our service and what we do and the interactions you have if we don't even get to come out and clean windows for you? And like they just sold us a bunch of shit, right, to get our money. And then they didn't execute at all. And they just ran like scripted shitty ads for us for a year. And I forget how much we paid them, but that was part of the 80 grand too. It was just like, oh, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah. Well, hey, you learned from it, right?
Yeah, you might as well run 10 businesses around the country and have 100 employees while you're trying to start something else from scratch.
Some of the lessons are very expensive, but
yeah.
I've learned over the years, you got to take something away from it. Otherwise, you literally just lit the money on fire. Like there's something you had to have learned through that, and it sucks that it costs that much money to actually learn that lesson. But hey, it's that hot stove. I'm not going to touch that again.
Yep. And it's just one of those things. It's like the best way to learn it is you just got to do it. And it's nice to have a coach that can warn you about it, or at least give you some guardrails, right? It's like, I don't want to talk people out of getting those experiences. Like, and those experiences are valuable, but I just hope they put up the guardrails for me. That's like, hey, once you hit this level, pull the plug. Like maybe it works different for you than it worked for me. Here's a story about my experience. You do your thing. Maybe you don't now because I told you what happened to me, but maybe you do because you have high conviction. But know when to pull the plug. Be doing the math. Be measuring the stuff. So, John, you the man. Thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna come crash your shark fishing sometime uninvited. I'm gonna just show up. I'll hit up Tristan later and be like, psst, where we go? Where we go?
Come on down. I'm sure we're not that far from where Devino is. I think, I don't know, maybe an hour or so, but we're not far from JC, so he'll be there for at least one day.
I just got to come crash some fishing stuff. I got fishing this weekend. I got fishing the entire next week in the Boundary Waters. I'm gonna be getting my fish on. I'm pretty pumped for it.
Just don't fly into Wilmington.
Don't even get me started. Damn it. It's not flying into Wilmington that sucks. It's flying out of Wilmington that sucks. All right, home service homies, business nerds, thank you guys for hanging out. You know what to do. Work smarter and harder. Go earn yourself some pride. Nighty night.